All right, it's time now for your markets news. We're going to start looking at the Asia markets. We are looking forward to that meeting, that all-important meeting between the U.S. and China, where they're going to be discussing a trade deal. And a little later on, we'll also be speaking to Viv Govender, who is the manager at Renswiss, to understand how this meeting will be able to impact. This is as I wait for my colleagues to update the screens for us to be able to give you the full market reports. And we'll also be looking at U.S. inflation numbers that came out today, and they came out also quite lower. We'll take a look at the Wall Street. All right, then we'll be speaking to Viv Govender now, who is a market analyst and also a portfolio manager at Renswiss. Viv is joining us online. Viv, thank you so much for your time. I hope you can see him very well. We've been waiting for that all-important meeting from the US and China that will be taking place. I've just mentioned it earlier in the beginning of the market. What kind of a deal would be the best deal for this market, and what kind of impact would it have on emerging markets should it go well?
I think any kind of deal that basically has some kind of market belief that it's going to be stable and long lasting would be good. Obviously, the lower the tariff, the better it's going to be. But I think come to the conclusion right now that the best we can get is a low level of tariffs as opposed to zero tariffs. I think any kind of deal that like I said, that Trump would seem to agree to and stick with would be is the fact that in the second administration he went after China and Mexico, it was Mexico and Canada, talking about the unfair trade deal that they have with the US. But do you know who created that deal? It was Trump in the first administration. So the issue is not so much what's the deal going to be, it's also whether the deal is going to seem to be something that will last. Yeah. And so I think stability is what the market is looking for at the moment.
Yeah. Let's talk about the CPI, Chinese CPI price line for a fourth straight month, highlighting persistent deflationary pressures. How are you reading it at Renswiss?
Look, I mean, the Chinese economy is under pressure and has been under pressure since the COVID crisis. They went into lockdown first and came out of lockdown virtually last. They were much stricter than most places. I mean, when they talk about lockdown, we in South Africa may have had lockdown, but they literally locked you in your house and sometimes welded your door shut. That's how bad it was in China, and that I think they're still in the after effects of that. At the same time, there is news coming out of China. I think just rumors at the moment, but I'm not so sure how serious it is. Yeah. That apparently Xi Jinping may be replaced, and I think that overall might be a bit of a boost for the market.
Right. Let's come back home, Viv. We have a couple of results out. Just a short while ago, my colleague Juliet has been speaking to Davi, the CEO of Alexander Forbes. We also have PPC, we have Oceana. But Alex Forbes posting a 14% increase in operating profit. They say it's underpinned by positive market growth as well as inflationary increases from within his retirement and healthcare as well as consulting client base. This tells us about how in the retirement, they're still quite trusted. What are they doing right?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're quite trusted, but I mean, the law of South Africa makes it very, very difficult not to invest in these platforms, basically. If you think about it, I mean, you get a tax-free amount of money that you're allowed to invest every year. And it's one of few places that you do get a tax-free amount. I mean, pre-tax ability to invest in the RA. And if you're in the upper income levels, you're talking about a 45% discount in terms of investing. Yeah. So it's a huge benefit, and I think these companies obviously have done well on that. And the fact of the matter is that due to the issues around South Africa's Regulation 28, where you're forced to invest 55% in South Africa, and then obviously a certain portion of that's going to be in the South African market, which has done spectacularly well over the last little while. On the now about a decade, it's not that great, but the last year or so, it's not been very bad at all. And in that environment, of course, you'd have results improving.
Yeah, it seems like at PPC, the giant has awakened. I think this is what they termed their turnaround strategy, awakening the giant, with the highest results since 2018. Headline earnings up from 9 cents to 40 cents with stable revenue for their SA operations and also a jump in operating profit. How has the market reacted to this turnaround of the cement company?
Well, look, I mean, the market gave PPC a lot of leeway in the start of last year. And if you look at the whole year's performance, I mean, the stock has been up like 60% almost if you look back a year. But if you look back over the last 6 months, it's basically been unchanged. And in fact, today it's down slightly, down about 1.5%. The market gave a lot of credence to the SA Inc. companies when the GNU came into play, with the hope that we would see a huge uptick in terms of goods owned. We have not yet seen that come through, and hopefully that will come through in the future. But I mean, I think if you look at the year, great results, but in the last 6 months, virtually nothing has happened on the share price.
Yeah, the last time I looked at the share price for Oceania, it was up 17%, if I'm not mistaken. The group results don't look too great, though. Operating profit for the group down 33.5%. Net debt is quite high. I think it's because of the expansion projects that they're undergoing. But Lucky Star Foods have delivered quite strong results. This has been supported by consumer demand, increased local production volumes. What does this tell us about consumer preferences and particularly brand loyalty in this economy?
Look, I don't think brand loyalty is as important as it was in the past. That being said, I do think that the food industry especially has been incredibly volatile over the last little while. I mean, we must understand that, we are looking at a situation in which what was historically seen to be reasonably safe sectors, reasonably, stable sectors, with things like, climate change, with some of the diseases we have seen come through with regards to, the bird flu and so on that's affecting, food production. More recently, some other stuff around meat has also come through. That might be a bit of a problem. Consumers have been forced to substitute and switch around depending on which is the most, cheapest available stuff around. So I think this is a case where they've gotten a bit of an upside because of other factors outside their control.
I wish you guys talk a little bit more, especially about the currencies and how they've been doing, but I'm afraid that we're going to have to leave it there. Viv Govender, who's a market analyst, he's a portfolio manager at Rand Swiss. Thanks so much, Viv. When we come back, Juliet is going to have more news for you.